Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Monday Project call. It is August 19th. We've got some exciting updates for you today coming from across the Mozilla Project. As is common with this meeting, we're going to start with Friends of Mozilla. First, a shout out to Archive of Our Own Project, who became the first open source project to win a Hugo Award at last night's ceremony in Dublin, Ireland. Not only is it an open source project, but one led by non-binary and women. So let's give a round of applause to AO3 and their Hugo Award. And as we like to do every week, the developer relations team wants to extend a big thank you to all of the Mozilla Tech speakers who volunteered their time to speak at conferences and present workshops last week. We would like to thank Giannis, Iona, Milika, Charlie, Elgin Sky, Ramon, Michael, Jyotsna, Dewanshi, and Ankit for all the great work. Keep on rocking the free web. Let's give a round of applause to our tech speakers. And if you have someone that you would like to recognize in one of these meetings for going above and beyond the call of duty, please reach out to me or add it to the wiki directly yourself if you have edit access. I'm happy to add if you don't have edit access. Next, we go to this week's calendar. Wednesday, August 21st, we have the Homebrew Website Club. The Homebrew Website Club is a growing worldwide network of meetups for everyone who wants to take back their web experience from social media silos and own their online identities, content, and interactions. This week's Homebrew Website Club on August 21st, the locations and times are listed in the wiki. There's also details and an RSVP link listed in the wiki. See if we have any other upcoming events. It doesn't look like we do, but I would like to bring your attention to the later events and available tickets section of the meeting agenda, where you can find events that are further out in the next week or two so they don't get announced with the regular events, as well as complimentary tickets from our dev sponsorship team. So do check out the wiki if you're used to watching this meeting on video only. You can find quite a bit more information. And with that, we're going to move on to our two speakers for the day, starting off with me, your host, Asa Dotzler, coming to you with the Firefox Weekly Update. Firefox 68.2 is our current stable release. This dot release shipped last week on August 14th and addresses several minor regressions and one security issue. Firefox 69 is in the beta channel, and that ships to our stable release on September 3rd. Beta 15 and 16 go out this Tuesday and Friday. We're coming into the final betas, the final two betas of the 69 cycle. Firefox 70 is in the nightly channel, and that ships to the stable release on October 22nd. The nightly soft freeze is 1 week from today. So you have this week to get your code changes in. Next week is soft freeze, and they're going to move into RC the following week. Over the last week, there have been about 450 bugs fixed in nightly, including these notable changes. On Mac OS, we've had a problem for the last year and a half or so that causes the Mac system, Firefox on Macs, to drain battery at a slightly faster rate than we would like. We've got the beginnings of work, still prefed off and still a lot more to do to improve Firefox battery life by using core animation differently on Mac OS. Last week, we saw the introduction of two new certificate-related prefs in Firefox. This week, they've been flipped to on by default. EV certificate information has been moved out of the address bar and into the lock panel, and the lock icon is now gray rather than green. If you are following along in the wiki, you can click on some links to see some before and after pictures. I'm not going to share because I think they don't quite translate very well on the video screen. Behind a new preference, browser URL bar megabar, we've got a experiment to change how the pop-up for the address bar is anchored. It used to be anchored to, or rather in the default state, it's anchored to the whole toolbar and is the full screen width. Whereas in this new experimental megabar, you can see it's anchored to the address bar itself, and it's only the width of the address bar. The Firefox Logins Manager now has a footer to recommend the Lockwise mobile apps. And we've got new notifications. There's a blue dot that shows up on the shield icon in the Firefox address bar when ETP has been disabled. This will warn you essentially that you're on a site where you have disabled tracking protection so that you can be tracked, or you will be tracked. There's also a blue dot on the shield icon in the Firefox address, on the lock icon in the address bar when the user has granted the site non-default permissions. So if you give a site access to your microphone and camera, or you give it access to your geolocation, or you allow it to send you notifications, you'll see a blue dot on the lock icon in the address bar. And when you click on that, it'll tell you in the pop-up panel which of those permissions you have granted for that site. The bar chart and legend in the Firefox protection report is now screen reader accessible. This was a hefty chunk of work done by Marco Zihi, and it's really exciting to see such a complex widget become screen reader accessible. We've got some Gecko CSS features that are exciting. First, the Gecko CSS feature backdrop filter has been implemented for the web render backend. It's still behind a preference, which is listed in the wiki page. This is a very cool feature that allows a developer to create a filter effect that makes it look like a blurred version of the background is coming through into the foreground. That's pretty cool. The CSS feature text decoration skip ink is now enabled by default. I showed you guys a demo of that last week where descenders for letters have a break in their underline now, so it improves readability. You may have noticed this changed default links and underlines across the web for your web browsing experience. We also have text decoration thickness that's now enabled by default, and text underline offset that's enabled by default. And that's it for the Firefox update this week. Our next update is the emerging technology update coming to you from Joe Fish.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to do the emerging technologies update. With a lot of the team heads down to get some work done, while also heads down as all of their children go back into school, which is very exciting, I tell you. We've got a couple of things going on that seemed worth sharing with you. The first one, as many of you know, on MDN, we have a whole bunch of browser compatibility information, right? And this week, the team put out a minimum viable version of what it might mean to gather feedback on those, right? So if you say, oh, if it says something on there like, oh, web speech works perfectly well on Firefox, and you're like, actually, no, we haven't really implemented that yet. There's a tool built straight into there that lets you gather that data. This was a minimum release to see if people would use it. It turns out, yes, people do use it, on average about 200 times a day. So that's pretty satisfying, and the team is moving forward to make that a little more permanent. The second exciting news is that we have released Rust 1.37.0. This is a new version of Rust with a whole bunch of useful things into it. One of the key things is that we are dealing with crates and a crate vendor in particular in a different way, right? So it's much more, rather than being on the external, it's actually built into the code base from the very bottom. And we can also do profile-guided optimization, which ends up speeding up code significantly. And that means that we can speed it up not based entirely on theoretical means, but also on the results of real workloads. So that's pretty exciting. Finally, we'd like to thank two new sponsors of Rust infrastructure, which is pretty exciting, Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure, both of which are helping us with different bits of the infrastructure that helps Rust work, in particularly providing space for things like doing compiling, which takes up a whole bunch of resources. So thanks to both of those two companies for donating their server space and time. Thanks. That's all we've got from ET today. Back over to you.
Thank you, Joe Fish. I'm going to do a quick refresh of the agenda to see if anything else has come on. Check if any other events came on the calendar. It doesn't look like it, and no other speakers. So with that, we are going to move to the concluding section of our meeting for the week, which is saying hello to some new Mozillians. Our first introduction comes to us from San Francisco with Dee Holbert. We'll move on and come back to that one. Let's move over to Mountain View, where we have a couple of introductions. First introduction in Mountain View is Justin Dolsky.
Hello there, I'm Justin Dulski, and this is Emma Melez. She was an intern with us last summer, and she's back full-time now, working on desktop Firefox front end. Probably going to be working on performance and vision stuff, so welcome, Emma.
Welcome. And next up, we have Anne with an introduction. Anne?
Hello, everybody. I would like to introduce Krista Brown. Krista Brown will be a new executive assistant, mostly here in Mountain View. She'll be supporting David Bryant and Katarina Borchert. She comes to us recently from Compass Real Estate. She's done Zendesk, Nike, etc. So when you see her around, please welcome her. Krista Brown.
Welcome, Chris. Let's try San Francisco again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Great. This is Daniel Holbert. I work on platform stuff. And I'm introducing Morgan Reschenberg, who was an intern last year, and she is joining the platform accessibility team full-time.
Welcome, Morgan.
Morgan.
Excited to have these new employees. And with that, we are at the end of our meeting. Thank you all for joining us this week. Hope to see you at the same time, same place next week. Until then, keep on rocking the free web.